Hello. If this is your first time visiting my channel, then welcome. Today we're going to work on a fun fold card. And for this card, I'm going to be using the layering circle dies. I think you're really going to like this card, so let's get started. So these are two cards I made using this fun fold technique, and for this one I used the In Colors of Sweet Sorbet, and I used for the scalloped circle die, I used the cardstock I used was Petal Pink. And for the designer series paper, I used the Pretty Prints, which is in the new annual catalog. And then for the sentiment, I used Charming Sentiments, which is also in the new annual catalog. And for this card, I used Evening Evergreen with Soft Succulent. And again, I used the Pretty Prints designer series paper, which comes in lots of colors. And again, used the sentiment from Charming Sentiments. Now, what makes this a fun fold? Let me show you kind of a nifty idea. So when you open it, it's kind of like a card within a card. A little different. I love this. And it's very simple to put together. So let me set these aside and we can get started. So for this card that we're going to make together, I chose Blackberry Bliss. And this is the coordinating same Pretty Prints designer series paper. And we're going to use the Blackberry Bliss for the card base. And then for the circle, we're going to use Rich Razzleberry. But you see how all of that coordinates? It's so pretty. So let me just grab the catalog, because I just wanted to say, for anyone who is new to stamping, and let me just open the catalog to the page with the designer series paper in it. If you're new to stamping, a great way to pick your colors for your coordinating cardstock when you're making a card is, once you've selected your designer series paper, go to the catalog to where that paper is listed, and Stampin' Up! List the colors, the coordinating colors that you can select from to coordinate with the designer series paper, because those coordinating colors will be found in that paper. So for example, in Pretty Prints, the coordinating cardstock is in the colors of Bermuda Bay, Blackberry Bliss, Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, Evening Evergreen, Gorgeous Grape, Petal Pink, Rich Razzleberry, Shaded Spruce, Soft Seafoam, Soft Succulent, and Sweet Sorbet. So it's the same with all of the designer series paper. Each one of them will list the colors that are included in that designer series paper, and then that's what you can use to decide what coordinating cardstock would go best with that paper. So Stampin' Up! Really takes all the worry or the thinking out of the process. You can just go ahead and open the catalog and pick one. So that's just my tip. Again, I just want to bring in my cardstock. So we're going to use for our card base, we're going to use our typical A2 card size. So you're going to cut it at 5.5 by 8.5, and then you're going to score it at 4 1/4. And then what we want to do, as we did in the other two cards, we want to cut a circle out of the center, and then we're going to cut another circle and then cut around it with the scallop and give it a little trim. And I chose to use a coordinating color, an alternate color, so that it would stand out from the card base. I mean, you can certainly keep it monochromatic, and if you wanted to, whatever color cardstock you end up choosing, you can, like in this case, Blackberry Bliss, I could certainly keep it at Blackberry Bliss, but I think it stands out nicer when there's a little bit of a coordinating color, like on this one, Soft Succulent, this one, Petal Pink. All right, so I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. What I love about this machine is the fact that kind of a lot of the thinking is taken out of this too. So in order to do some die cutting, so you have the base plate, and that's number 1, pretty easy. Put in the second plate, number 2. You put in one of the clear plates, there are 2 of them, there are 2, number 3, so you just put in 1. And then you put in your cardstock that you want to die cut. And then once you put in the die, then we'll put in the third one. So what we're going to do for this card is we're going to use the largest of the scallop layering circles, and we're going to use the second largest of the plain circles. And I know if you've seen my channel before, you've seen me talk about these magnetic die sheets and that you can get on from Stampin' Stores, because Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell them. A lot of demonstrators like me buy these sheets because it's just a great way of keeping the dies excuse me, all together and not kind of loose and flopping around. Easy way to be able to see what you have. Okay, so as I said, we're going to use the second largest die, and we're going to put it not quite at the top and not quite in the middle. And the reason for that is that when we come back and cut our second circle, we want to be able to have room at the top for that additional circle. So we want to be able to have, I want to kind of center it, if I have that right, but leave enough room at the top for another circle. Okay. All right, looks good enough. All right, and then I'm just going to put this top plate on. That out. You're going to have a little circle. You can set that aside for another project, and you have your circle. All right, so now we want to set that aside, and you want to bring in your coordinating cardstock. So in this case, I'm using Rich Razzleberry. Again, I'm going to set that in there and just cut a circle. Again, you're going to end up with a circle, set it aside. Now we're going to bring in our largest scallop die. And what I want to do though is I want to bring in a piece of Post-it note, because I want to make sure that it stays in place when I die cut it. Now, if you have a good eyeball and you don't need to do that, that's fine, but let's see, we have this centered. Okay. I'm going to hold it down. Hopefully that will stay down and not move. All right. Wait, you know what? I'm not sure it's centered. Let me see. My die is a little warped from using it so much, so it's not laying flat the way I would like. So I'm trying to do my best to hold it down in the right spot. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay. Peel that off. Okay, and there we have it, right? So we're going to set aside our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. and bring back, oop, this has gotten all kind of wonky. All right, and then what we're going to do is, now we would tack it down right over that spot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm just going to put a few drops of glue on it. I did get a little bit of glue on it, but it dries clear. But in the meantime, I'm just going to dab it. Okay. Okay. All right, so we have that. And then the other thing I want to do is I'm going to cut a piece. I'm going to do the sentiment right now. And let me get my paper cutter. Of course, I put it all the way on the other side of the table. Figures. All right, so this is just a scrap piece of basic white that I have in my scrap box. I just want to measure it 1 inch. It's practically 1 inch. It's just a smidge over, but not that it would matter, but I'm going to make it 1 inch. Okay, and you're going to do it 1 inch by 4 1/4, because we want it to go all the way across the card. So we're going to put it across here, like that. I'm kind of put it down. All right, and I'm going to bring in the stamp set, Charming Sentiments, and I'm going to use this one, Wishing You the Happiest of Birthdays. And because it's a photopolymer stamp set, using a foam mat gives gives it a little bit of a cushion, so it gives a really good impression. There we go. And I'm using Blackberry Bliss ink. You could use Rich Razzleberry. I mean, if you're following my color scheme, then you could use the Rich Razzleberry as well. Okay. Okay. And I need to get my stamp cleaner, which looks really gross, I know, but it does not put the ink back on the stamp as you might think it would, but it doesn't. It cleans it really, really well. Okay, I'm going to put that back in here because I've been known to put them on the side, and then guess what? I put something else on top of it. It gets stuck to the back of, like, if I put this down, all of a sudden I don't know where the stamp is, and then somewhere down the road I pull this out and find out there's a stamp stuck to the back of it. I don't know if you've ever done that. So I try to put the stamps back in the case immediately after I use them to hopefully not lose my stamps. Okay, so we're going to bring this back in a little bit when I stamp the sentiment on the inside, but for now I'm going to just set this aside again. Okay, and I'm going to, oh, I don't need this. So we're going to just go ahead and glue down. I'm not going to pop it up or anything. I'm just going to glue it right down. You know, I opened a new liquid glue container, and when it comes out, when it's new, oh God, it just comes out. There's so much of it that comes out. So I keep having to dab this. Okay. All right, so we're gonna put that down. All right. Set that aside. Now, I did the ribbon. I'm not going to do the ribbon right now, but I want to show you a trick. I did the ribbon 2 different ways with these two cards. So for this one, I did the ribbon across. For this one, all I did was wind the ribbon through the inside here. I just wound it around and then tied a bow at the bottom. And I put a little glue dot under there just to keep it in place. But that was like, this is like a super easy way to do it. For this one, obviously, how do you tie a ribbon around the whole thing, right? Kind of hard to do. So let me show you what I did. And this is a trick that I learned from France Martin of Frenchy Stamps. And you, okay, let's see if I can find it now. I have a a punch. Yeah, got it right here. And if you have any punch that has like a little circle or something at the top, like this one does, which is, this is Label Me Lovely. So it has a little bit of a jut out, you know, a half circle or whatever that you can use, whatever you might have. And I'll show you how it's done. So what you want to do is take an ever so small bite, right, out of the corner of the card. Let's see if we can do that. Now for this one, I thought I was taking a tiny bite and it ended up being a little bit more, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. So what you do is you just put it in to, I'm going to put this down because I need a little bit of force on it. So tiny sliver. Wait, let me make sure that I'm putting it where I want the ribbon to go. Okay. Okay, tiniest of slivers, right? But it's a perfect amount of space to weave a ribbon through. So let me do that. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you just take a little bit of ribbon and weave it through with that little sliver, bring it around, and then you would tie a bow. And that's how you do it if you want a ribbon to tie across the front of your card. Pretty brilliant. So I just want to say thank you to France Martin for that tip. All right. And what I'm going to bring this white organdy ribbon back again because that's what I used for both of these cards. But all I did was use my Stampin' Blends to color that white organdy ribbon. So I used Sweet Sorbet to color this one. And I used Evening Evergreen Stampin' Blends to color this ribbon. And we'll use the Blackberry Bliss Stampin' Blends to color the ribbon for this card as well. Okay, but I'm going to, before I do that, I want to bring in my paper trimmer because I want to cut the inside. Let's put the inside together. So for that, you're going to need a piece of basic white cut at 8 inches. And this piece should already be 8 inches, I believe. Yep, this is 8 inches by 5. Let me bring this over. So 8 inches by 5. All right, and you're going to score it at 4 inches I'm going to get a little few paper bits on it. Okay, because this is 8 inches, we're going to score it at the halfway mark, which is at 4 inches. Okay, and we'll just fold that. Okay, and then we are going to bring in our designer series paper, and we're going to cut it at 4 3/4 by 3 3/4. Okay, and that's all the cutting we're going to be doing. All right, let me get my bone folder and just give this a nice little crease. Okay. And we can tack this down. And I think what I'm going to do is just use the Stamp and Seal. Go. Now, I think what I'll go ahead and do is stamp the sentiment for the inside. Camera out of the way. Okay, and I think what I'm going to do is use, because, let's see, what does it say? Because you totally deserve it. Okay. I should have put this on the foam mat, but that's okay. There, it worked out. Clean my, I don't know where I put my cleaner. I'll clean it in a minute. All right. Now you have all this room to be able to write your message and then sign this for your recipient. So we can go ahead and tack this down. And for this, I think I will use some liquid glue. And look how nice that is, peeking through the opening, the window. I love that. All right, so now why don't we color the ribbon? Now, let's see. I think I'm not sure how much ribbon I'm gonna need, so let me just see. Let me give it a measure. Let's see. I wanna give myself enough for a nice bow, so I'm probably going to end up cutting more than I really need, but okay, get my ribbon scissors. Okay. All right, I'm going to work from the right to the left because I'm right-handed. So I'm going to be coloring this way, and I want to keep moving my left hand to where it's not inked up, because otherwise if I go from left to right, I'm going to end up putting my hand on the inked up part. So I'm going to start with light Blackberry Bliss and see how I like it. And then if I think it's too light, I'll just move to the dark. So all you're going to do is just run your Stampin' Blend right over the ribbon. So let's see, do we like that one? Actually, I think the light is going to be just fine. See how I'm moving my hand along where the clean part is? Because, yeah, I did it the other way the other day, and I ended up with ink all over my hands. But this technique is a great way to just use white ribbon and color it any color you want based on what color Stampin' Blends you have. So I have used this same white ribbon to make a whole bunch of different cards that all look very different, only because of the fact that I use different color Stampin' Blends, and you would actually at first glance never even realize that it was the same ribbon. Now it is glitter ribbon, so it does have sparkles in it. So if sparkly glitter stuff is not your thing, then maybe you're not going to be enthusiastic about it. But if you don't mind a little glitter, a little sparkle in your ribbon, then you can definitely use this technique to color your ribbon for to coordinate with any of your cards, whatever color cardstock or designer series paper you're using. Okay, so you just thread it through that little chip that you cut into the cardstock, and then just bring it around and tie yourself a bow. Let's see how I can do this without too much trouble. And you know what I think I'm going to do is bring in a glue dot, which can kind of act as like another set of hands by holding it down. So let's see if I can do that. There we go. So I'm going to just place a glue dot right there on the paper, and then I'm going to, press that little tie right in place. It's almost like when you're tying a bow and you ask someone to put their finger there. Well, I just put a little glue dot there, and that's kind of like the same thing. It holds it in place while you finish tying your bow. And sometimes that's all we really need, is that little extra help to finish tying off the bow. Okay. And you pull it. I'm going to pull it around a little bit more if I can. Okay. Let me just, there we go. Had a little bit more ribbon in the front than I wanted. All right, and then you just want to trim it with your ribbon scissors. Give it a little slice, angle slice. And there you have it. All right, so you can continue to embellish your card if you want to. I have some champagne rhinestone basic jewels, and I think I may put a couple of these on the front because I kind of like the way that they're a little different color, and but they coordinate with this paper. It looks kind of nice. Right? So there you have it. And so the beautiful designer series papers shows through your window. You open it up. Oh, there we go. And you have enough room to put your sentiment. Just love this, I think, and it's super easy to make. So if you enjoyed watching this fun fold tutorial and want to see more content from me, I would love for you to click like and subscribe to my channel. You would really be helping me a lot, and you would be notified whenever I upload new content. So I want to thank you for tuning in today and watching, and I will see you next time.